Welcome to the Part 2 video for the Poetry Terminology Definitions. At this point in your poetry packet number 1, you should be on page number 8, and we're continuing to fill out just the definition and not the rest. So for repetition, repetition means to repeat, and that's what it is. It's when the poet decides to repeat the use of meaningful words or phrases for effect or emphasis. Again, they're taking important words or phrases and saying them multiple times in the poem so that the reader really notices them. For example, I really want candy because candy's the best food ever and nothing is as wonderful as candy. They said candy 3 times, so they clearly want the reader to really notice and pay attention to that. Rhyme. Rhyme is the similar or identical sound at the ends of 2 or more words. Now, if you recall alliteration, that is when the sounds at the beginning matched, like the whopping whale in the water. Now we're going to look at the end of words, like sweet, heat, and complete. Even though these are spelled different, they have the same ending sound, so they rhyme, much like read, dead, said, and fed. Now, rhythm is a higher level poetry skill because to use rhythm, the poet would be creating a pattern or a flow of sounds created by the arrangement of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line of poetry. They're literally picking words based off of how long they are and what kind of emphasis we give the parts of the words so that when you put them all together, you get a beat. For example, I wish I knew the time of day. Bump, 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 bump. The time would be so nice to know. So with the right words in the right spot, I get that beat. Bump, 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 bump. And that's rhythm. Next, we have a simile. Simile is a lot like metaphor because it is also a comparison between 2 things. The only difference is that it will use like or as. So we're going to go back to Eli, whom we are comparing with the bear, because they're both grumpy. In the metaphor, we said Eli is a grumpy bear. Now we're going to change it to a simile. Eli is as grumpy as a bear. Eli is grumpy like a bear. The use of like and as are what make our comparison a simile. And our final term is the stanza. Stanzas are a grouping of lines within a poem, basically like chunks. And each chunk in that poem we simply call a stanza. We can separate them out by seeing the visual space that gets left between them. They will literally add a space between each stanza. In novels and nonfiction books, we see paragraphs. In poems, we see stanzas. A poem can be 1 stanza where it's all one big chunk, or like this poem, they did 4 stanzas because they broke it into 4 smaller chunks. This concludes the Part 2 video, so you should have all the definitions filled out in your poetry packet number 1. Make sure you bring it to class because in our next in-class lesson, we're going to go back and start filling out the rest of the packet together.